Hello, everyone. Let's get started. Thank you for joining us for the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program Equipment Rebate Voucher Reporting webinar. I am delighted to kick us off this afternoon. My name is Allison Robinson, and I am the Voucher Manager. I'll be joined by two of my colleagues, Shay Rupinski and Alvaro Escalera, ORISE Fellows with DOE. This webinar will last for 1 hour, and it will be recorded. The recording will be available on the website, and that link will be shared in a post-event email. Throughout the presentation, we encourage you to use the Q&A function to ask questions. We will reserve 15 minutes at the end of the session to answer these questions. You can find the chat function on the panel at the top of the Teams window. Please do submit questions and comments into the Q&A function as the presentation goes on. We will also drop relevant links into the presentation as well. If we're not able to answer your question today, please follow up via our EECBG email, which is eecbg@hq.doe.gov, or check our FAQ tab on the website. We'll be dropping both of those links into the chat. Next slide, please. This webinar will review key reporting requirements for EECBG program equipment rebate vouchers, including their deadlines and how you will submit them. This webinar is just for eligible local governments and tribes who are applying for equipment rebate vouchers. This webinar will not discuss reporting for technical assistance vouchers or the traditional grants. Next slide. Reporting is important as it facilitates communication and information sharing between the voucher recipient and voucher team, while ensuring compliance and progress on projects, as well as reducing the risk for fraud, waste, and abuse. Reporting also provides DOE with current and accurate data to understand project impact. Next slide. Here is our agenda for today's webinar. We will start with a reporting overview, then we'll review a checklist of reports. We'll move on to a summary of the reporting requirements that the webinar discussed. Lastly, we'll share available resources before beginning our Q&A session. Next slide. So how often do you need to report? The reporting process begins once your application is approved by DOE and your project begins. The amount of reports will actually vary because some reporting requirements are project-specific, such as the Davis-Bacon Act has a weekly reporting requirement, while other reports are twice yearly or just annually, such as the Historic Preservation Report. Don't worry, we'll be taking a deeper dive into all reporting requirements later in this webinar. Please note that all final reports are due 120 calendar days after the end of your voucher period of performance. Next slide. So who should report and where can they do the reporting? Equipment rebate voucher recipients, including the lead applicants for any entities who are teaming, are the ones responsible for reporting. The voucher portal, which is where you submitted your application, will serve as the primary platform for not only revising your application if there are any changes to your project, but also for submitting reporting requirements. We will note if a report should be submitted to a location other than the voucher portal. Should you have any technical issues, please reach out to the portal administrator at the email eecbgvouchers@icf.com, and they will be able to assist you. Next slide, please. Our DOE voucher team is here to support you, and we'll be working with you to ensure that you're able to meet reporting requirements. So we want to provide that assurance before we dive in further. DOE's role is reviewing the reports to support your project success. DOE's review includes desktop monitoring and site visits. So DOE will be reviewing submitted reporting to assess progress towards goals and objectives, determine compliance with federal rules and regulations, and track fiscal expenditures. When DOE conducts a site visit, we will be providing voucher recipients, excuse me, with in-person technical assistance that enables successful execution of their EECBG program awards. We'll also be ensuring and verifying compliance with all federal regulations and program guidance. Lastly, DOE will be documenting success stories that highlight EECBG program impact in the communities that you are serving. Next slide, please. I will now turn it over to my colleague Shay to begin the reporting overview.
Thanks, Allison, and hello, everyone. In this section, we will begin with a quick reporting overview. Next slide, please. The reporting requirements for equipment rebate vouchers are covered in the Federal Assistance Reporting Checklist. This checklist is sent to you via email upon project application approval, and a copy will soon be available on the voucher portal for your reference. The Federal Assistance Reporting Checklist includes a checklist of all potential required reports for equipment rebate vouchers, as well as detailed descriptions of each requirement, including where each report should be submitted. Please note, this report is generalized for all voucher recipients, so please read carefully, as not all reports will be required for all projects. For example, NEPA logs, Davis-Bacon Act reporting, and the single audit report may or may not apply to your project. Next slide, please. Here we have listed out all reporting requirements that are included in the Federal Assistance Reporting Checklist. Reports that may be required for your voucher include a performance and financial report, the tangible personal property report, Davis-Bacon Act reports, NEPA logs, the historic preservation report, location report, and a single audit. In total, there are about 8 reports that may be required for your project. Please note again that the Davis-Bacon Act report, NEPA logs, and single audits are listed as if applicable, as they may not apply to all projects. Copies of the reports listed here can be found for your reference in multiple places, including the Federal Assistance Reporting Checklist and grants.gov. In addition, the voucher portal will soon have a complete reporting section that will guide you through all reporting requirements, as well as have links to forms and pre-filled examples. We suggest you use the voucher portal as your one-stop shop to review your reporting needs and complete these requirements. Next slide. Okay. So I know that we have said that equipment rebate vouchers will have reduced reporting requirements. However, after reviewing that list of 8 reports, you may be feeling like this isn't the case and even a little overwhelmed, which is understandable. So how have we actually reduced the reporting burden for equipment rebate recipients? First and foremost, we wanted to note that by law, equipment rebate vouchers are still considered federal assistance and are therefore subject to the same reporting requirements as other federal grants. That being said, the EECBG program team has worked to reduce reporting requirements within these guidelines in a few ways. First, the frequency of reporting for equipment rebates is significantly reduced compared to grants. Reports such as the performance report and financial report are due up to 4 times a year or quarterly for some traditional grants. However, for equipment rebate vouchers, these reports are due annually or just once if you finish your project in the first year. In addition, our program uses NEPA SOs, which eliminate the need for every entity to file an EQ1 with the NEPA office and receive a unique NEPA determination for their project. Furthermore, entities may choose non-ground disturbing projects, which eliminate the need for NEPA logs altogether. In terms of Davis-Bacon Act requirements, entities can choose to use in-house staff for installation, which exempts them from DBA reporting. Next, while it may not feel lucky to have a formula allocation of less than $250,000, it does make you exempt from having to comply with Build America, Buy America requirements. In addition to the Build America, Buy America waiver, the Good Jobs report has been eliminated for all equipment rebate recipients, full stop. Last but not least, all reporting requirements guidance is being built into the voucher portal, so you have a one-stop shop for reviewing and completing reporting requirements. While some reporting requirements may not be better than none in the end, we hope this demonstrates that the equipment rebate option does have a reduced reporting burden when compared to traditional grants. Next slide, please. In this next section, we will go through the reporting checklist, detailing each report in turn. It will also include a demo of reports that are completed as a module in the voucher portal. Next slide. The first required report for all equipment rebate voucher recipients is the performance report. The performance report details activity status, milestone, financial metrics, process metrics, and qualitative descriptions. Milestones will detail if you met your project goals. In other words, if you successfully purchased and installed your intended type and quantity of equipment. The financial metrics will detail the total funds you receive from DOE through the EECBG program. The process metrics sections of this report is particularly important as it will ask you to quantify actual energy savings from your project according to bipartisan infrastructure law metrics. Examples of bill metrics you may be asked to report on include estimated kilowatt hours of electricity saved annually or total capacity of solar PV systems installed. A full list of bill process metrics can be viewed by following the link in the slide once available online or by visiting the EECBG Program Application Hub. Conversely to metrics, the qualitative description section provides an opportunity for you to share a written narrative of project successes and challenges along the way. Some stories may even be shared publicly by DOE. The performance report will be completed using a module in the voucher portal, which will be reviewed next. This can be found by logging into the portal, navigating to your application, and clicking on the performance report. The performance report is due both annually by October 31st and as a final report within 120 days of project closeout. Please note, if you have not started work on your project by the annual reporting period, the annual performance report will be waived. In addition, if you complete your entire project in the first year, you may submit this report once as a final report. Next slide, please. As noted, the performance report is completed as a module within the voucher portal where you applied for your voucher. Here we are going to show how to complete the performance report in this portal. Begin by logging into the portal, selecting My Application, and then clicking on your application. Next slide. Once the application has been selected, you can begin the performance report by selecting Performance Report. Note that the information on this page and some of the following pages of the report will be pre-filled based on the information provided in your application. After reviewing the instructions, select Next to continue. Next slide. The following page reviews your EECBG program eligible activities based on those listed in your application. This page is for your review and cannot be edited. If you believe the selections are incorrect, or if you would like to make updates, please email eecbgvouchers@icf.com with your request. After reviewing the page, select Next to continue. Next slide. The next section of the performance report reviews your project milestones. Please review your project scope and note any updates to your project, as well as the final quantity of equipment purchased. Once complete, select Next to continue. Next slide. This page reviews your financial metrics and details the total amount of EECBG program funding approved for payment by DOE. This number will be pre-filled based on your application records and cannot be changed. After reviewing the page, select Next to continue. Next slide, please. This next page is where you will complete your process metrics. Begin by selecting all categories of metrics that apply to your project from the metric areas listed at the top of the screen. These areas include retrofits, transportation infrastructure and vehicles, equipment purchased, renewable energy, or other. Please select all that apply. Once selected, a drop-down list for each selected metric area will appear. Within these lists, select and complete all applicable metrics for your project. A full list of bill process metrics can be viewed by following the link in this slide once available on our website or by visiting the EECBG Program Application Hub. We encourage you to complete as many metrics as are applicable to avoid future edits to the report. Next slide, please. The final section of the performance report includes qualitative descriptions of the equipment rebate. Please take time to write out your successes, challenges, and rationale for pursuing your EECBG program formula funding, as we are certainly glad that you did. As a reminder, some stories may be shared by DOE. Once complete, select Submit to finish the performance report. As a note, you may pause and return to the performance report at any time by selecting Save for Later at the bottom left side of the screen. Next slide, please. So with the conclusion of that demo, we're going to transition back into reviewing the next required report for all equipment rebate voucher recipients, which is the financial report or standard form SF425. The financial report details federal expenditures and is where you will report total dollars received from the EECBG program. The financial report is completed by filling out standard form SF425 and uploading it to the voucher portal. This is done by logging into the portal, selecting My Applications, clicking on the application, reporting, then Files. Note that some aspects of the financial report may not apply to your specific project, such as unobligated balances or program income. Please enter 0 for line items that do not apply. The financial report is due both annually by October 31st and as a final report within 120 days of project closeout. Please note, if you have not started work on your project by the annual reporting period end date, the annual performance report will be waived. In addition, if you complete your entire project within the first year, you may submit this report just once as a final report. Next slide, please. Okay, this next one's important to receive your reimbursement. So if you have been dozing off during this webinar, this is just a ping to perk up your ears. So this next required report is the Tangible Personal Property Report. If you had read some of our voucher guidance closely, such as the voucher handbook, you may have noticed that a post-installation report is required for equipment rebates. The Tangible Personal Property Report serves as the post-installation report and will be used to verify the purchase and installation of eligible equipment and actual dollars spent. To drive the point home, I want to repeat that the Tangible Personal Property Report serves as the post-installation report and is required to verify purchases and receive reimbursement. A final Tangible Personal Property Report is due within 30 days of completing all equipment installation. This report includes standard form SF425, SF425B, SF428, SF428B, and SF428S. Invoices, receipts, and timestamp photos should also be submitted with these forms. Please send raw photos so metadata is accessible and do not put them into a PDF. This next comment is incredibly important for ensuring that you receive your voucher payment correctly. In order to receive payment, you must ensure that the Tangible Personal Property Report lists an accurate and active Unique Entity Identifier or UEI number from SAM.gov. Note that some governments have more than one UEI number, so please ensure the one you list on this form is where you actually want your payment to go. Reimbursement will be issued by an electronic check to the bank account associated with the UEI number listed on this report. In addition, please make sure your UEI is active in SAM.gov prior to submitting this report, as they periodically need renewed. The Tangible Personal Property Report will be completed using a module in the voucher portal, which we will review next. This can be found by navigating to your application in the portal and clicking on the Post-Installation tab. Note that if you ever dispose of the equipment purchased with EECBG program funding, you will also need to request disposition instructions by submitting standard form SF428C to DOE. This form is only needed at time of disposition or sale and is not due at project closeout. Next slide, please. As noted, the Tangible Personal Property Report or Post-Installation Report is completed as a module within the voucher portal. Here we are going to show how to complete the report in the voucher portal. Begin by logging into the portal, selecting My Applications, and then clicking on your application link. Next slide. Once the application has been selected, you can begin the post-installation or Tangible Personal Property Report by selecting Post-Installation. Note that you will receive an error message if your application has not yet been approved. Once approved, the Post-Installation tab will become available. Next slide. Begin by reviewing the requirements of the post-installation report and certifying that your project is 100% complete. Only one tangible personal property report should be filed for all equipment purchased. Equipment rebate vouchers are issued as a one-time payment. If you begin to complete your post-installation report and notice that you have additional dollars you could expend from your formula allocation, reach out to EECBG vouchers at icf.com to amend the scope of your project as soon as possible. We encourage all entities to use the full amount of their EECBG program funding. Once this report is approved, you will not be able to request additional dollars. Next slide. Next, enter the total amount you are requesting for reimbursement. Note this amount may not exceed your total EECBG program allocation, which will be listed on the screen for your reference. Next slide. In this section, you will upload copies of invoices, timestamp photos of installed equipment, and any other documents that may be necessary for DOE to verify purchase and installation of your equipment. Please ensure copies are clear and itemized for ease of review. Once complete, select Next to continue. Next slide. Finally, upload complete versions of the Tangible Personal Property Report standard forms, including SF428, SF428B, and SF428S. Note, the version of the portal that is shared here states that the form SF428A is also required. However, this is no longer needed and will soon be removed from the post-installation module. Once you have uploaded your forms, select Next to continue. Next slide. Last, the applicant must certify that they are the authorized representative for their government by entering their name on this page. Select Next at the bottom of the screen to submit the post-installation or tangible personal property report. This concludes the demo of the post-installation report. Next slide. Okay, with that demo wrapped up, we're going to dive back into continuing the checklist of reporting requirements. So next is Davis-Bacon Act or DBA reporting requirements. As stated, Davis-Bacon Act may or may not apply to all projects, so please review DBA requirements closely to determine if they apply to yours. In general, DBA applies anytime external laborers or contractors are hired to install your equipment, even if EECBG funds are not covering this installation cost. In order to comply with DBA, 2 reports are required, including weekly payroll reports and semi-annual reports. First, weekly payroll reports should be submitted weekly during equipment installation and should include a record of hours worked and wages paid, including fringe benefit contributions and certified payrolls. To reiterate, payroll reports are only required during installation work. Grantees are responsible for tracking and maintaining DBA records for all contractors. Currently, the EECBG program requires the use of LCP Tracker to submit weekly payroll reports. However, the voucher team is working with the Department of Labor to identify an alternative pathway, so please stay tuned for potential updates. In addition, entities cannot directly register in the LCP Tracker. A member of the EECBG program team will need to assist you with this step. Next, the DBA semi-annual report details entities' compliance and enforcement of the labor standards provisions of the Davis-Bacon Act. The semi-annual DBA report is completed using a standard form and should be uploaded to the voucher portal. This is done by logging into the portal, selecting My Applications, clicking on the application, reporting, then Files. The semi-annual report is due by March 31st and September 30th of each year. Semi-annual reports must be submitted even when no active installation or project work is occurring. If no work has occurred, you may enter 0 or NA in applicable fields. Next slide. Next, we are going to cover both historic preservation reporting and NEPA logs. The Historic Preservation Report verifies activities covered by a Historic Preservation Programmatic Agreement and should be submitted by all equipment rebate voucher recipients. The Historic Preservation Report is completed by filling out a Microsoft form online and is due by September 15 each year for the duration of your project. Note that the link to the online Historic Preservation Report shared here does not work at this time. The link will be made active closer to the report due date. Next, NEPA logs are a report that is only required for entities using NEPA SO1 for their EECBG program voucher. NEPA logs serve to verify activities covered by NEPA SO1 and ensure that no additional environmental review is required. A NEPA log should be completed and submitted before a project begins. NEPA logs are completed using a standard Excel workbook and should be uploaded to the voucher portal, as well as emailed to eecbg.nepa@ee.doe.gov. Logs can be uploaded to the voucher portal by logging into the portal, selecting My Applications, clicking on the application, reporting, then Files. NEPA logs may be submitted once if locations of work are known and permanent. If the locations of work change after submitting the initial NEPA log, an updated NEPA log should be submitted as soon as possible or quarterly as changes to the project occur. If locations of work do not change, only one NEPA log needs to be submitted at the beginning of the project. Next slide. Next, we have the one-time location report. The location report is used to verify locations of EECBG program projects. This report is completed by filling out a standard Excel workbook and should be uploaded to the voucher portal. This is done again by logging into the portal, selecting My Applications, clicking on the application, reporting, and then Files. The location report is due only once and can be completed anytime during the project once locations of work are known, but preferably within the first year of the project. Next slide. Last but not least, we have the single audit report. Single audits are only required for entities that expend $750,000 or more in federal awards during their fiscal year. Audits are due within 30 days of receiving an auditor's report or 9 months after the end of the auditing period. Single audits should be submitted to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse using the link referenced in this slide. Next slide. Next, we're going to review some summary reporting tables that provide a consolidated resource for reviewing all reporting requirements. Next slide. Here we have part 1 of the reporting summary tables. This consolidated list details the frequency of the reporting requirement, the name of the report, where the report should be submitted, and the due date. Again, there are 8 possible reports for the equipment rebate voucher, but not all are required for every project, so please review carefully. Next slide. Here we have a summary of the remaining reports. As an example, we have listed here the Historic Preservation Report, which is due annually by filling out the linked Microsoft form by September 15, as well as the Location Report, which is due once within the first year of your project, completed using Excel workbook and uploaded to the voucher portal. Next slide. At this point, I would like to thank you for your attention as we did a deep dive into each reporting requirement, and we'll turn it back over to my colleague Allison to continue the presentation.
Thank you, Shay. I want to share some additional resources to assist you with reporting and compliance. Next slide. This slide has links to DOE web pages that have resources such as videos and fact sheets, FAQs for the following reporting sections. So the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law Process Metrics, Davis-Bacon Act, Build America, Buy America, and National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA. So we're including these in the slide deck as a quick way for you to access these resources, and we really encourage you to review these web pages for more detailed information about the above reporting requirements. If you have any questions, please email the DOE EECBG program inbox at eecbg@hq.doe.gov. As always, we encourage you to attend our bi-weekly office hour sessions. These are on Fridays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Please visit the EECBG application hub to find out more information on office hours. Next slide, please. We're now going to begin the Q&A session of this webinar, and we're going to start by reviewing answers to some of our most frequently asked questions. Next slide. So, should I submit multiple tangible personal property reports, also known as the post-installation report, for reimbursement if I happen to have a multi-phase project? So the answer is no. You want to wait until all of your projects are complete, all of the equipment within your project has been fully installed, and that's when you would file one single report. And we want to really emphasize that you'll be issued a single reimbursement payment for all of your EECBG related projects. So next question is, should I submit a separate tangible personal property report for each item of the equipment purchased? And the answer is no. List all equipment purchases on a single post-installation report. And then, is the equipment I installed for my EECBG project considered government owned? No. Property is only considered government owned if the government has the title. So we do not anticipate any of the EECBG projects to have government owned equipment. Next slide, please. How do I report on BABA compliance? So you'll notice that Shay talked about when BABA applies, but did not go into where you upload a report for BABA. And that's because there's no formal report for BABA. However, you should be able to demonstrate compliance upon request if this is asked as part of DOE's monitoring procedures. Let's also talk about Davis-Bacon Act. Should I complete Davis-Bacon Act training? And if so, how? Yes. We have a link here for completing Davis-Bacon training, and this is recommended. And so you'll be able to access that link on the slide deck once we post it after the webinar. And then, is my internal government staff, if my internal government staff is installing my equipment, does Davis-Bacon Act apply to my project? No. As Shay noted earlier, Davis-Bacon Act applies to your project when you have a hired contractor, so a third party from outside your government entity that is installing the project equipment. So our next question is, what is an EQ1 and how do I know if I need one? So an EQ1, which is also known as an environmental questionnaire, it's needed for projects that do not align with scopes listed in the NEPA statements of work. So an example would be if you're installing solar and you are installing a solar array that is larger than 60 kilowatts. Should I submit NEPA logs if my project has an EQ1 instead of a NEPA SO? No. So like Shay mentioned earlier, NEPA logs apply for those projects that have a NEPA statement of work 1. That's the one that says ground disturbing on it. And so EQ1s, if you have an EQ1 for your project, you do not submit a NEPA log. You're going to have your own project determination. Next slide, please. We will now begin the Q&A and answer some of the questions that you have provided in the chat.
Hi. I just want to thank everyone for putting some really nice questions here. So let's start. And will DOE be conducting a site visit for every applicant? And do we know how often DOE will do on-site inspections?
Thanks, Alvaro. Great question. So DOE will not do a site inspection of every project. It will depend on your project, and it's at DOE's discretion. So you will hear from DOE if a site visit is needed for your project, and that will be scheduled far in advance to accommodate your needs as well as our travel needs.
Good to know. Should entities have already received a notification that they've been approved at this point?
Yeah, thanks, Alvaro. I can take that one. It's a bit of a mixed response. Yes, some of you should have received notification. However, the average application review time is 30 to 60 days. So if you have submitted your application and it has not been 60 days yet and you're still waiting, that makes sense. However, if you feel like it's been too long, if it's been more than 60 days or you're just unsure, feel free to email us and we'd be happy to give you a status on your application. You can also check the status of your application at any time by logging into the portal, clicking on My Applications, and then clicking on that application, and it'll give you a status update there of where it is in the review process.
All right, perfect. When will the updated reporting portion of the voucher portal be live?
Yeah, great question. I know you're all eager to see that go live. It's imminent. So what Shay was showing was the final tweaks. So we've got the last mile edits to do, and so it should be going live end of this week or next week.
All right. And I know that this specific one seems to have been answered, but it seems that for entities that are purchasing things such as vehicles that will not be purchasing them all at the same time, do they need to submit for reimbursement request only once and do so within the 30 days, or how do they deal in these kinds of situations?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I can take that one. So basically, if you're purchasing, say, 3 vehicles and doing one every 6 months, you're going to wait until you've purchased that final vehicle and then file that report within 30 days of receiving that final vehicle, right? So we consider vehicles you don't really install, right? But it does get to you eventually. So that's kind of like your installation moment if we want to use vehicles as an example. And so you would wait until you receive that final vehicle and within 30 days complete that tangible personal property report or post-installation report.
Great. Excellent. As long as entities purchase equipment that is under 5,000, there are no disposition requirements, correct?
That is a great question and a great opportunity to clarify. So it's not only just $5,000 at time of purchase, it's actually, is this individual piece of equipment worth $5,000 or more at the time of when you are disposing? So either it could be a vehicle if you're selling a vehicle, or if you are replacing that equipment with a new piece of equipment. So you will not be submitting this disposition report, like Shay said, during the project period. This will be several years down the line. Back to you, Alvaro.
Okay. So for entities that are, for example, installing multiple streetlight fixtures, for example, numbering in the thousands, would DOE need thousands of photos, or are receipts/installation data from the contractor sufficient in this specific case?
Thanks for that question. That's a good one, right? That sounds like a lot of photos. So the answer there is no, we don't need a photo of every single light bulb. We would like a sample, right? Show us a few, send them over. But then, yeah, make sure that they're all tracked through the invoices from your contractor, etc. So again, a sample is okay in situations in which there's a large volume of installation.
Okay, perfect. And specifically regarding location reports, is this public information? There are some entities that are planning to install equipment in residential housing and are concerned about privacy issues in this regard.
Yeah, we definitely understand that. And no, the specific address, like house number or street name, is not public.
Awesome, great to know. Should entities file Davis-Bacon wages reports during installation phase if they are not spending EECBG funds on the install?
Great question on Davis-Bacon Act there. I'm happy to take it. So the answer there is yes. This is a really interesting caveat of Davis-Bacon Act. Because EECBG dollars are touching the purchase of that equipment, it applies to that whole project. So you still have to submit Davis-Bacon wages reporting for the installation of that equipment, even if the EECBG dollars aren't going directly to that installation. It's a really important distinction to make, but overall the answer is yes, you would still need to do that.
Okay. Will the portal only list the reports that are necessary for the specific project of these entities?
Great question. No. So like Shay mentioned, you'll be receiving the Federal Assistance Reporting Checklist, the FARC. So you want to be paying attention to the ones that say, if applicable. So certain reports, like Shay reviewed, are for everyone, such as tangible personal property report. Other reports are specific, project specific, that's Davis-Bacon. Some are allocation specific, like Build America, Buy America. So if you have any questions, we're happy to meet with you and review what reporting is needed for your specific project.
All right, perfect. And then for entities that have received approval of their voucher application via email, indicating that they could proceed with their equipment purchase and installation, but have not yet received the checklist, how should they proceed in this specific case?
Yeah, great question there. And I apologize for that oversight and you not receiving that. If you want to reach out to us, we can get that to you immediately. And as Allison mentioned, our reporting module in the portal will be active very, very soon. And again, a copy of that checklist will also be listed there, along with some written guidance on, how to submit reports. So when you open up that checklist, like most government documents, it's rather long, right? It's a lot to read through. So we'll have that for your reference, as well as some consolidated instructions for how to do reporting. So again, reach out, we'll get it to you, and there will be plenty of resources on reporting at your disposal momentarily. So wait in suspense, I guess I would advise on that end.
All right, excellent. It seems that those are all the questions here. I do want to remind folks that if their specific question has not been answered in this webinar, they can definitely send an email to us and we will make sure to get that information to you as soon as possible. But that seems to be all for the Q&A at this moment.
Thank you, Alvaro. I also just want to note that if there's a report missing or if their information is wrong or confusing on any of your reporting documents, that we will definitely be reaching out to help you address those. Similar during the application process, it's okay if you feel like your reporting may not be perfect at first. We'll work with you to get to perfection. And so if something's wrong, you'll definitely hear from us. So we just want to reassure you that we're here as your partner to get through these reporting and compliance requirements so that you're filling out everything correctly. So we want to thank everyone for their time today. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us for this webinar, and hopefully it was a valuable look into reporting and compliance requirements for equipment rebate vouchers. And we'll certainly be in touch regarding reporting, and we look forward to working with you as you complete your project and closing out all of your reporting requirements and getting you that reimbursement to your UEI number. As always, you can email our program team at EECBG@hq.doe.gov. Thank you so much for your time today.